Hello everyone, in today's video we are going to be exploring Area 4-1 and talking more about our super cheesy broken build with our Ancient King's armor set. We're going to be getting a new main hand weapon that will likely carry us through the majority of the game. And for this particular level, as you saw me equip my rings there, the other main item that I wanted to equip was a Thief's Ring along with the Cling Ring, because that will help us with enemy detection. So we are in the island's edge. This is 4-1. It is one of the harder levels in the game because of these enemies right here. These skeletons tend to be a big pain in the backside. They will ruin your day, to be sure. Their tumbling automatically hits you. As you can see there, it does damage. But with the Ancient King set, the old King Doran set that I have there, you can see it does very minimal damage. Without that armor set, it does do quite a bit of damage. And they do follow you. Their tumbling is faster than their actual your sprint speed, so it does take quite a lot of gusto to get through it. That being said, as you can see, I'm messing with the sound here, I apologize. But when they catch up to you, they do either one of two attacks. They do one of those swinging combo attacks like that, or they wind up and they do a big overhead slam. And those overhead slams, you got to either just step backwards away or roll at just the right moment to avoid getting hit. They're fairly vulnerable to magic damage, so if you hit them at range with some magic before they get to you, it will certainly make life a little easier, because you can whittle their health down before they get up to you. You can also see, without the Thief Ring equipped, that other skeleton to the left of the archer would have aggroed me, and that usually makes life miserable, because now I'm fighting not just one melee skeleton, but somebody flinging archery magic bolts at me too. So even if I block the magic bolts, some of that damage does leak through, because the heater shield does deflect 100% of physical damage, but there's some magic damage attached to that as well. Also, with the Thief Ring equipped, I'm only have to deal with one skeleton at a time here instead of both skeletons. And if you actually hit them right as soon as they were finished with an attack, it deals just a bit more damage. And I picked up an item there when I really shouldn't. The item I got is Soul Remains, and that's going to be a huge help for us in just a little bit. So pretty much what you're doing here is you're trying to get through these first wave of skeletons. This is the only place that has so many skeletons in a row. We'll still be fighting a few more of them for sure, but this is the main area where there's tons of skeletons to deal with. Once you get up to the top here and facing the castle, you'll get attacked by archers above the ramparts overlooking the fog gate here. And I think I actually take a couple of bad shots. Yeah, right there. And you can see that magic damage does eke through really hard. So you need to watch out for that, especially even with the Ancient King's armor set. It's not too great against magic damage. So here we're going to go through the fog gate in this first area, make a hard left-hand turn, and run down a hallway. There is a pressure point there which has those traps, and they are a nightmare to deal with. So yeah, with that being said, you want to make sure that you try to run as fast as you can through here. I'm equipping the Soul Remains. What the Soul Remains do is that they provide an aggro target for an enemy. So this red-eye katana-wielding enemy will one-shot you for the most every time, I think, even with the armor set. Regardless, they pretty much will ruin your day, so better just to avoid them. With the Soul Remains there, they're baited and they walk away from their defense part, and then you pick up this item, the Crescent Falchion. The Crescent Falchion is a one-handed sword that deals both physical and magic damage, and it scales with your intelligence. And if you've been following the GG Easy build that I have been making here, intelligence is something that we kind of beefed up a bit to 18. It's our highest primary stat there. So we'll be doing the most damage with this item right now in our possession. Now, most of the enemies here are indifferent to magic damage, but you'll definitely see a much larger difference in magic damage here. I used to do like about 15 damage at a time to these skeletons, and now I'm doing almost twice that. So that's a huge help for us. We're going to be dealing with these archery skeletons here, and I will probably mess up one of them, I think. Yeah, I should have hit that third one a third time, but I think I just ignore it. And we're going to run back down the stairs and pick up an item called the Copper Key. And this is what we'll use to rescue an NPC a little bit later on in the level. There is a trap at the bottom, so you just need to be wary of that pressure plate right there. And I believe I step on it for posterity's sake. And those arrows, they hurt. So avoid the traps that I point out during this video. There's like 5 or 6 throughout this entire area. I'm going to speed things up as I backtrack across the rampart here. And eventually we will come up to a point where we deal with, well, there's an archer there, but you just run past him and you go into these narrow corridors. This is another great point to have a one-handed weapon, because a lot of times you'll try to swing and you'll hit the walls like that, and then I take damage. You got to make sure that you don't mash the R1 button here. You just, if you're doing melee, you just got to just keep taking slow swings, just tap, let it sit for a second, tap again. If you're into music, you take a rest, like a half-beat rest, and then tap it again, just to get the primary right to left swiping animation to avoid hitting the walls. Of course, if you're doing the easy build and you're making life simpler for you, you can simply just use the magic instead. That skeleton's guarding an illusory wall, so you can swing your weapon out and hit it, and it provides a nice little shortcut. As we're crossing through this tunnel area here, there will be 2 more skeletons I will deal with right through there. So you just kind of poke your head out just to draw their attention. Don't take damage like I did. And you can see I get a little bit greedy here, but it works out all the same. Also, if they're not doing the big overhead attack, if they just do that standard one, they're open for counterattacks as long as you have your shield up. They get repelled backwards. So you can actually deal out some damage and punish them. But the overhead attack, they will not stop with, and they do not bounce back. If you try to block the big overhead, it will drain all of your stamina and leave you open for more attacks. So please be aware of that. That's something that has gotten me more often than not my first few runs of the game. Picking up more healing items for Crescent Moon Grass, which is great. And here is where we will use the Copper Key to rescue Grave Robber Blige. And he's going to be a merchant that will be very important in the second part of World 4. So 4.2, we'll see him again, and he'll give us a great opportunity to do some farming and get some very quick souls in a hurry, and we will show that in a future video. Once we have finished with Grave Runner Blige, we are going to continue down the hallway here. Another illusory wall at the end will bring us out, and it's a great shortcut to another fog gate, but there is another trap, so watch out for that. You can see the little square in the wall there. That's where the arrow shoots out of. If you're feeling frisky, remember the Vanguard boss from the tutorial level? He hangs out in 4.1. So you could fight him again. Even if you beat him in the tutorial level, he still reappears. So technically you get a chance to get 2 Gray Souls, which you could trade in for various items, spells, etc., or just cash it in for a ton of souls. You saw that blue attack, the little crystal shard attack that came at me. Those come from the stingrays that you might have seen flying around the level. Another reason I keep the Thief's Ring equipped is because those attacks come much less frequently because they don't detect me as easily. And usually they are constantly bombarding you when you're out in the open like this. So it is really a good idea to avoid, like right there, boom, and they deal a ton of damage. So that's why I strongly encourage the Thief's Ring in this particular level, because it's just so much easier to pull one enemy at a time. You don't have to worry about all the extra attacks from the stingrays, and you can just do your thing in a much more calm and slow-paced manner. You can see the skeleton gets stuck here. Oh, there's another bad hit from a stingray. You can see, and that's just with the Thief's Ring. Without it, I get bombarded all the time. So we are going to speed things up just a little bit. There's an archer here that I'm dealing with. And then there is a Red-Eye Knight in the little alcove there that I just passed up. And you'll get to see him in just a moment. I'm just showing you yet another trap here. You can see the pressure plate there. And then I run to avoid it. Just barely avoided it. I misjudged the roll pretty bad. But there is a Red-Eye Knight guarding the Adjudicator's shield in the back there, and that is a terrific item for those of you that want to build a regeneration build, items that constantly regenerate hit points, and that's a pretty solid item to have. Or for those of you that like to use big two-handed great weapons. I'm going to do a little bit of backtracking, and I'm going to speed through most of this. It's really just kind of cleanup that I did on my run, where I just ran around picking up extra items and soul items, especially Renowned Hero Soul gives you a ton of souls, and that's very important. I'm going to backtrack around to where that Red Eye Knight was, and since the Adjudicator Shield is a great item, but not really something I need for my build, I just avoid it. I'm like, I don't really need it. And the Red Eye Knight is just more trouble than he's worth, because he will 1, maybe 2 shot you if you're lucky, and send you right back to start. You have to do it all over again, and that's kind of a pain in this level. So essentially here I've just wrapped up doing all of the extra running around that I wanted to do, and I'm going to continue forward with the rest of the level. This area is very dangerous as well, because there's going to be there's a cliffside that will insta-kill you because it's insta-death on the left, and there is walls to the right. This is so annoying because when the right-hand main weapon, whenever you try to swing it, there's always a very real probability that you're going to run into issues with it catching the wall, and then you get either smacked by that big skeleton that will ruin your day, or you'll try to roll or panic roll and you find yourself jumping off of the ledge. So it's kind of hard without a thrusting weapon. And the double worst part is thrusting weapons, they are very resistant to piercing damage, and like the rapier, for example. So that is something that you don't really want to have equipped and using. So thankfully, with the Super GG easy build with magic, you could just simply hurl spells at the skeletons and ruin their day before they can even get close to you. Their overhead attacks are very strong, very deadly. And then if you're going to backtrack a little bit, like I've just kind of got myself backed up against the wall a little bit, just make sure you're aware of where you're backtracking to. I can't tell you how many times I've fallen off a ledge to my death. It is never fun. So we're going to keep moving up. I got some more skeletons that I'm dealing with here. This little hiding spot is really solid because it takes a very specific angle from those rays. You see one right above the skeleton back there, but with the Thief's Ring equipped, he can't see me from that far away. He might be able to see me and take some pot shots from that distance normally. I think I take a shot from him. Yep, right there. Always seems to happen at the worst possible time. But I'm able to get through there without any trouble. So, as I'm coming up along this area here, we are right by the boss room. There's just a couple more items I'm going to expend to just get around and pick up and just gather before I head my way over. And they usually revolve around either crystal lizards or other rings, if you're looking for the ring achievements, or the consumable soul items, which I desperately want for the end. There is a very audible noise cue that the stingrays make when they attack you, so once you get used to hearing for it, you can just kind of roll or move out of the way, because their projectiles do travel in a straight line. So if you move just a little bit, even a little bit, you'll be able to get out of the way. There's a crystal lizard. The crystal lizards in level 4 drop a moon shade stone shard, and that is the upgrade material we would need to be able to get our crescent falchion leveled up. So Crescent Falchion is one of 2 one-handed weapons that attribute to the final build of this particular playthrough. The other is a dragon longsword, which we'll talk about later. But both of those weapons are things we want the upgrade stones for, so that we can upgrade them and make them as strong as they can be, because they both kind of do raw damage and don't scale too terribly well with stats. Or in the case of the Crescent Falchion, the one that does scale with intelligence, we're not going to put any more points in intelligence. So upgrading the weapons is the only way we're going to get more of a damage output from them. There's another trap there, and again, I misjudged the dive, but that's okay. It's still there, and that was like number 4 or 5 on the level, as I mentioned. And then finally, we have one more Red Eye Knight, Katana Knight, just like the other ones we've seen so far. Thief's Ring will let us pick up that Half Moon Grass, and I'm just going to kind of spam spells. You can just get an idea for it. I'm hitting him full on here, and if I had a full magic bar, I'd probably be able to take him down and just, you know, kite him all the way back to the end, but I just kind of give up after a while, because again, he's not really worth it. And this will lead us to the Adjudicator fight. The Adjudicator fight is kind of a pain for a lot of new time players, as you can imagine. The basic easy way to beat this boss is you want to get down to the ground floor, just like I did. Run off the ledge, head down the stairs, go right down to the floor. You can see he is quite bulbous. He's immune to all damage, but he has that big metal cleaver sticking out of his side with an open wound. Your job is to smack the doodly out of that cleaver. Eventually, when you do enough hits to it, he will fall over, and there is a little bird on the boss's head, and that is the weak point. That's what you want to aim to do actual damage. His only attack when you're on the floor with him is either an overhead smash with that big meat cleaver weapon. You can see the bird just fell now, and I do some damage. Or a side-swiping attack. Both of those are painfully easy to dodge, and neither of them will one-hit kill you, and he attacks so slowly you can easily heal through it. So as long as you stay on the floor with him, it becomes a very simple, straightforward boss fight. We're going to skip ahead just a little bit and just kind of zoom in, because I do this for a couple times. When you do knock him down, you're able to do roughly 25 to 33% of his health, depending on how you manage your stamina. So this is a good lesson for the new players as well on stamina usage, because you also want to be able to save up enough stamina to dodge his first attack when he gets back on his feet, because that might come pretty quickly, especially if it's the horizontal slash that we mentioned a little bit earlier. Again, kind of fast forwarding it, but now that I'm on the stairs, I'll show you another easier way to always do damage to him without having to jump, and that is simply get on the landing between the stairwell here and just throw your spells at his head. He's always going to do the overhead smash, and you'll be able to pretty much cheese him from there. It takes a long time to do it, and there's really, as long as you're staying to his left side behind his left hip, he's not going to hit you. So you should be all right to just stay on the floor and just wail away at him. And as I mentioned before, even if you get unlucky and he gets a lucky hit in, it won't kill you. You'll be able to heal up with it without any trouble with the armor set that we have. So this is pretty much just a straight up boss fight from here on how to take him down. We're just going to go ahead and super accelerate through the remainder of the boss fight. But once you have him beaten, you get the Swollen Demon Soul. The Swollen Demon Soul you can cash in for either the Meat Cleaver weapon with a club or a great club, and that is a very strong two-handed weapon, but not really conducive for this build because you need to really ramp up strength and dexterity and faith to be able to wield it effectively, and it's not really worth it. And then once we, of course, have beaten the boss, the other thing we do is when we return to the Nexus, we go ahead and do our upkeep, which is trading in all of our useless items to stockpile Thomas. We also deal with upgrading and repairing our equipment, and then we will consume all of our soul items, cash in with the Maiden in Black, who will level us up accordingly, and we get ready for our next level. So the main reason why we did 4-1 first is because the next area we travel to in my follow-up video in 2-1, all of those enemies are highly susceptible to magic damage, and that is something the Crescent Falchion does. We already have the spells, obviously, but the addition to having melee damage is much, much easier on us and just makes the level much easier and that much more simple for us to get through. So once again, I hope you enjoyed the series and enjoyed this episode and enjoyed these videos. If you do, please give me a like and subscribe to be notified when I post more of them, and I will see you in the next episode. Until then, have a great day.